Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a tour of the WordPress customizer with regards to Blocksy. Okay, so we're on our home page and we're logged in as the admin. Let's go ahead and click up here, or alternatively, we can go to our dashboard, right? We can click here or hover over this and click on dashboard. Usually when you log in, you're greeted with a dashboard. You can scroll down here under Appearance and click on Customize, and that should take you to the same place as this, which is the WordPress Customizer. And this is pertaining to Blocksy in particular. So if we had Astra or just the stock WordPress themes, the layout of this might be a bit different, which is why we have this one for Blocksy. So let's get started. We have general options, post types, pages, WooCommerce, extensions, and core. We won't go too in-depth into all of these things just because there's so many options, but we'll go through each one of these tabs one by one and take a look, a quick glance of what they do and how we can use it maybe for our site, for your site. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on General Options, and let's start with General. So keep in mind that the changes we make in the WordPress Customizer are global. So here's a great example. For layout, let's click on that. We have maximum site width. We can make it super wide, or we can squish it in, as you can see, right? We have a threshold here. And this changes the margins, so you could say, for our entire website. So we have our homepage here, and if we went to our About Us page, you can also see that our header and our content is squished in, right? But let's say you wanted only your one page, or just pages in particular, or just posts and not pages, to be squished in. You could use the block editor to adjust the margins there by pixel. Or we'll see later that there's a difference for the spacing for posts and pages. So let's go back home. Let's keep this on the default, right? We can also change the content area spacing, and we don't see that much here, but sorry, but let's go back to the About page. And you can see that we can adjust the height, and then the content edge spacing also does something with that. And narrow container only if we have the narrow container enabled, right? We don't have that here, right? And if there's wide elements, which we don't have any right here, we could adjust the spacing on that. And next, we could also see here, and we're going to see these throughout our customizer, is that we have our desktop icon here, our tablet icon here, and our phone icon here, our mobile icon. And you can see that when we change it, the value is a bit different. So if we wanted to change up our content edge spacing, right? And you can see it's different actually on all of these, is that sometimes the way it appears on our desktop might not actually be how it appears on mobile. I'm sure you've used a website that isn't really optimized, or as they say, responsive, like it's too far in or too far out, and it's not always just your phone, it's just the way that the website's laid out. So you can adjust that from here. Okay, and then if you wanted to preview it, we have these buttons here, which are the desktop, tablet, and mobile, just so you can check how it looks like on different devices. And we also have our dark mode theme here if you preferred that. Next, we'll also find our buttons here. Just in general, we don't have a button here, and this is a custom one. So here we go. We have some buttons here, and by default, If we have buttons enabled, depending on the block, we can change them here, and you can see it applies to all of them, right? We can also change the padding. So if we wanted to change the spacing, we could do that. So from the top, we could, let's say 44, right? Okay, and you can see how it changes. And then we can also change the radius, and it makes it super round. We can set those back to their defaults. And we can also change the minimum height. We can make them bigger or smaller. It really depends. We have our breadcrumbs. Let's go back to our About page. And you can see when we click on our breadcrumbs here, we have a bunch of options, right? We have the home icon there. You can see the separator, the spacer thing. Change it to a slash. We also change toggle on and off, right? So if, let's say, we had a single page or post title, we can enable or disable that. And you can see we have the home icon there. And we can also change it to home if you preferred that. And you also change the font and the colors. We have form elements. So if we had a form, I'm not sure if we have one here, maybe this one. Oh yeah, there. And we can change it here, and we have a few options to choose from. And if you inserted a form on a different part of the website, this is where you could configure it, and all of them would be the same, all right? You can see now why I can't go through everything one by one, because it just takes up too much time. Entry content, that's the stuff that we type in. Social network accounts, this is just for, you see these icons over here? We can put it in our links here, our URLs or our @, and we can, when we insert the icons in certain parts of the website, this is where it'll take it from, okay? We have visitor engagement. This is some fancy stuff. So if you had your Google Analytics ID, you could put it in here. Schema markup, metadata, SEO kind of stuff. Okay, we can also enable or disable our scroll to top here and our toggle, and you can see it should appear there. And if you wanted to edit it, we can click on this arrow here, or just on this, and you can see we can change a bunch of things from the icons and icon sizes. And like I mentioned earlier, you can see that we have our 3 icons here and different sizes and spaces, and we have another tab over here for design, for color, shape, and shadow, right? And then website frame, if you wanted to add that. You can also customize it if you have it enabled. And then some options here for, we can export these and then copy it on a different website, or import some presets if we have those prepared. Now, moving forward, we have a bunch to look at still. We have header, and here in the header one, we have top row, bottom, main row, and bottom row. And you can see we have our logo here in our menu. If I drag this, you can see there's the blue spots, the anchor points. I can drag and drop that to there, and let's scroll up. And you can see it ends up on the bottom row, and the search bar. Let's put that over here. And it stacks up like that. And if we were to put the menu in the middle here, you'll see the alignment change, right? Let's go back home just to make it a bit cleaner, right? And if we have our contacts, we can put that here. And there's a bunch of other things here, like we can have multiple search bars, a trigger for the mobile menu, and then a widget area, and we can customize these. And we have our headers options here, and we can customize what's sticky if you have that on Pro. Some effects, transparent if we want it to be a transparent header or not. You can see. And we also have our design here, and we can change the backgrounds, the background color for when it's transparent or when it's in a sticky state. And you can also change the mobile header by clicking on this, and you can see it's very different. And we can select mobile, and you can see it's different altogether. And this is where you'll find all of your customization options. So if I wanted the shopping cart to be in here, I can drag and drop that box here, and you can see our shopping cart is in our mobile menu, and it's no longer in our main menu over there. Okay, so let's move on to the footer, and you can see the footer works just the same way. Let's head back home. You can see the footer works exactly the same way. We have our top row, middle row, and bottom row, and we have all of these elements that we can drag and drop. But here we utilize widget areas much more. So if you click on this, you can see we can customize our widget here by adding blocks from our block inserter, and you can choose any of them, and we can drag and drop and add them here. Right, and then we have different kind of footers. We have effects. We can box, full width, and add more padding or margins, and we can change the background color as well. Sidebar, well, if we have our sidebar enabled, so let's go to one of our pages, and let's quickly take a detour down here, pages, and you can see in page structure, let's have right sidebar enabled. Okay, and we'll go back to that in a bit. We have our sidebar here, and we have different types that we can choose from. We can adjust the width, percentage, the gap, right? And then these are all spacing options, and we can change the fonts and the background colors and the font color depending on if it's a desktop or mobile. We have our colors, and these are the global color palettes for everything on the website. So let's go back home, and we can choose some preset colors here, and you can see, let's change it to orange, and you can see all of the accent colors change to orange, right? And you can also change these individually by using the color scroll, slider, wheel, whatever. We can also change, use hex codes and change the transparency of it all. And we can also change our font colors here and our site background color. And we can have everything be default. You can see by default it's actually blue. And typography, this is where you'll find your font options. So for our heading 1 here, or heading 2, or let's go ahead and scroll down here, and you can see we have a bunch of fonts here. We can click on this, and you can see it changes to the Mr. Beast one, and we can change the font size, the font size and the line height and the letter spacing, and if we want to make it all caps or strike through or underline. We can also change the different the font sizes of the headers, heading 1, 2, 3, excuse me, or just the fonts in general, depending on if it's on desktop or mobile. You can see for mobile it's going to be this spacing, but then on desktop it's going to be wide spacing. Okay, and then for performance we can enable or disable certain things, and this just makes or helps our website load faster. If you don't need certain features, you can disable them, but if you need them, you can enable them. Okay, next we have our blog post types and our pages here. So we have blog posts here, and this is blog posts, which is our, how should I say, blog archive. And there's different ways that we can have it laid out. So you can see that we have different layouts here. Okay, brilliant. And we can change how many columns are in each one, right? 3, 3, and then there's going to be 3, 3, 3, 3, so on and so forth. We can also change the card options. We can enable or disable, hide or unhide the featured images. It depends on what you want on your website. And we can change the fonts for each one of the colors and so on. We also change the radius. Okay, so there's a bunch of menus that you just have to go through yourself to see if you want it. And you can see we can also enable or disable the sidebar from here. You can see the design. We can, again, we can enable or disable the sidebar. We can also change the background depending on if you wanted to or not. And you can see here it's inherited, so it's just using our standard website or default background color. So for single posts, let's go to Power Bank Trends, I guess. And then for single posts, again, here is where we will find our structure if we want it narrow, wide, or have the sidebar enabled. And there's so many other options here, and we can also enable or disable things. So we can enable author box, share box, enable or disable the comments, the subscribe forum. And you can see these things are starting to appear now because we enabled them. And you can see once we enable them, you can see that we can configure them from here, right? Okay. Next, we have categories, and this is just for if it's basically the same thing as our archive, but it just depends on the category. So if this is for power banks or electronics, right, the same thing, we can have a different layout for the electronic section versus just the main archive page. Okay, now let's go to pages. Okay, so in pages, as you've seen a while ago, we took a quick detour. We can change our page structure just like in our blog posts. Narrow, normal, with a left sidebar, with a right sidebar. Sometimes it kind of messes up a bit because we're in the preview mode. We're in our customizer. There you go. Now it's loading. And we can change things here. We can enable or disable our featured image. We can enable or disable the share box. It should probably appear down here. Yep, and that disappears. And we have our design here. Change the background. And then for the page title, we can also configure that here. So it's all like layouts and stuff. And you can also change the fonts and the colors of the title. So let's say by default, it's like, it's this, right? And then we can change it to Trebuchet or Impact, right? And you can change the fonts and colors as everything. And this applies only to this, to pages. And when you set it to the default one, it says default family, which it takes from our typography section over here, right? And an author page, if we have authors and our search page, if we have our search results up. So actually, let's go ahead and take a look at this, and you can see it's basically the same thing. So if I search power bank or something, and we looked it up, we're gonna have a couple articles, I believe. There we go, 3 articles, and we can change the layout here just like our blog. But these are the search results page that we get. All right, and then we can move on now to WooCommerce, and we're almost getting done here, so bear with us. Okay, so WooCommerce, this is if you have a web shop. So let's go ahead and click on products, and just like our blog, it takes us to our product section, or you could just think of it as a separate blog archive kind of thing. So let's click on general, and well, first things first, we have our messages here, info messages. This is for when people buy things, or if something happens, we can change the colors here. Star rating, the colors, quantity input. We have a few different options here. Product badges, right? Right, you can see that. And then we can change the design, and we can change what it says, right? And then cart page, if we have our shopping cart here, we can change our, oh, there you go, see, options and designs and stuff, and we can change our designs here. So you feel free to customize that as you wish. We have our checkout page as well, and head over to our checkout page, and we have a bunch of options here. So we can enable or disable this, and customize how this looks. Okay. And finally, we have our store notice, and we can change how this looks like. And there's a bunch of things here. All right. Now let's go to our product archives, which is where we were earlier. And just like our blog archives, you have a couple different layouts here, type 1, type 2. And you can change how many products appear in columns and rows. You can also customize how these things look like. We can disable the stars. We can disable add to cart and the price. All right, let's actually reload that and see if that makes a difference. Right, and the prices disappear. So if you had a shop that's kind of like that, you can go ahead and do so. And you can also change the spacing and the design. Right, if you didn't like the default one, you can go ahead and do that. We can also enable or disable the sidebar, enable or disable sorting. And I'm fairly certain some of you have experienced this where you're on a website, web shop, and you're trying to buy some stuff, and then this just isn't enabled. Hey. And then we can also enable or disable the results count and change the design. So if you only had how many products, you wouldn't really want to be showing these things anyway. To showcase them, and then pagination, right? We can change if we have a certain number of pages only or infinite scroll. And then for the product catalog, we can show here. Let me do this. We can show categories only, right? You can see uncategorized bicycles, chairs, power banks, categories, and products. And then after we finish all of our, finish displaying all of our categories, we can see our products after. This really depends on what kind of shop that you're running is. So we'll keep it on the default one. And with design, as usual, you can change the fonts and the colors and enable or disable breadcrumbs and descriptions and change the spacing again. Okay. And then for single product, okay, so let's go ahead and click on this table. Let's go ahead and click on single product. And you can see just like a blog page or a blog post, excuse me, or an ordinary page, we can enable or disable toggle narrow width and choose between left and or right, or not really and sidebar, right? And this has a completely different sidebar from the ordinary Blocksy one. So if you're ever concerned about this, you'll have to go into your options and configure your WooCommerce sidebar. All right, for design, we have our product gallery, and then we can enable or disable the lightbox. So the lightbox is this thing where it opens up the image and you can take a look closer. And then we can also disable the zoom effect. So when we hover over it, nothing really happens. And then sticky gallery, you know what that does, right? And we can also change the container width, and we can change the design, radius, thumbnails, image sizes, and spacing, right? Product tabs, elements, upsells, these things here, we can disable that or enable it if it isn't. And let's move on to the last few things. Okay, so we have a couple extensions here, and these are add-ons to Blocksy, and some of you might not have this, but it's a good thing to take a look at. And we have our trending posts now, and it doesn't actually have to be trending posts. It's just a way to display certain posts that maybe some of our customers or readers or viewers might like. So for instance, this has trending posts, and we can have them trending from all time or the last 24 hours and so on and so forth, or we can have it as products, right? And then we can have a custom query where we can only display a certain certain type of items. So if it's expensive items or cell phones or whatever have you, we can also do that. And you can see post ID very specific, right? And then we can have the last 24 hours or all time or last month. And it really depends on what you want to show your readers. And we also can edit our conditions to display the trending posts on maybe a certain page and not on our home page. Maybe when we're on a particular blog post or something that's trying to get customers to buy our stuff, maybe we can enable it there. And then cookies consent. This is something that's kind of hard to preview on here, but I'm sure you know when you open up a website for the first time, it gives you the warning that you're going to, or the prompt for you to consent to giving your cookie or storing cookies on your browser, the viewer's browser. And yeah, and then you can change the message here. You can put like according to the European Union law, so on and so forth, and you can do this, right? Okay. Okay. Finally, we're moving on to core. Okay, so site identity, we can change our site name, right? Website assets is here. We have our tagline here, right? And we have our site icon, which is, let's use this just for now. If it'll let us shrink it. Oh, it's already so small. Okay, let's go crop image. Okay, let's just do that. Or actually, no, let's choose it. Okay, so we'll select that crop image. It's too small, or okay, there we go. It's loaded, and you can see that this is what's going to appear. So on our live website, it's the WordPress stock logo, and this side icon is from here. We can remove or change it, and we can enable or disable our site tagline, right? Next, we have our menus here. We have a bunch of different menus here. That's this, and if I wanted another menu, as you've seen a while ago, if you can recall from our header tab, we can use more than one menu, and we can select a different one here, or we can create a new one. We can configure the ones here, and we can add or remove items, and you can see on our main menu, you can see we have our home, products, about, blog, contact. We can reorder them, right? And this will go underneath here. Oh, you can see it changes. Oh, there we go. See? Or it just changes up like that. And then next we have widgets, header widget area. Okay, there we go. And if you wanted to change the widgets in the footer, you just go ahead and go there, or you could edit them from your dashboard. Okay, homepage settings. We can have it to where it's just a blog page, right? Let's go back home. Oh, maybe because it didn't save. Oh, that was just part of the theme. Or we can have our homepage here and our blog page is going to be something else. I feel like this isn't really changing because this is like hard-coded for our site. But if we were to use a WordPress stock one, then it would be, what would happen ideally is that when we set it to latest posts as our homepage, our blog actually would be, we wouldn't be seeing this. We would be seeing just this, right? And finally, additional CSS. So if you were a more advanced power user, you can add stuff here, and you could have finer control over sub-level stuff. Okay, so that's Well, hopefully, a quick tour of the customizer in WordPress Blocksy. We're going to try to go into each one of these tabs one by one, just so that it's a bit more comprehensive. But if you're trying to figure out where everything is, we hope this video helped you. So without further ado, if you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, as it really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. Show this kind of video to other nerds like us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.